He clawed his way back into the points race, using an aggressive style that has always complemented his ability, leading more miles than any other driver in the series. And with 3 1992 wins, Michael is in 3rd place in the points competition. Al Unser Jr. also started 1992 with a new steed, the Galmer chassis. In the 2nd race of the year at Long Beach, Jr. led, but he and Danny Sullivan tangled, crushing any chance for victory. His season 2 started out darkly, but Al made up for that and so much more at Indianapolis, where he fulfilled his lifelong dream of wearing the Indy crown. His new machine had carried him to the ultimate, and now there was momentum to ride. Little Al has never stopped fighting, doing whatever it takes to get to the front. Now he sits in 2nd place in the hunt for the championship. Bobby Rahal started the season as a part owner of a new team, but was using the tried and true Lola Chevy combination. He went flag to flag to take his first win of the year in Phoenix, and has been riding a wave of success ever since. Always a sly fox at Detroit, Rahal watched as Michael Andretti and Paul Tracy battled in front of him. And then when the opening presented itself, he appeared from nowhere to take the lead and the win. Rahal continued to surge, blowing by whomever was in front of him, always charging to the front. He comes here first in points and poised to add to his lead in the ever-present quest for the PPG Cup as it takes on the challenge of Road America. ESPN, the world's leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. About 50 miles north of Milwaukee, near Elkhart Lake, the beautiful Road America race circuit. Hello and welcome, I'm Paul Page, and this is one of the grandest road courses in the United States. It's also the longest, over 4 miles. And because of this race for the Indy cars is a very tactical run. And in fact, the crews are involved almost as much as the driver, because if they would miscalculate a pit stop by even a single lap, they can turn an otherwise winning run into disaster. The qualifying here yesterday was incredible. Paul Tracy, driving for Roger Penske, replacing the injured Rick Mears, was looking very strong. He had the fastest time. And then suddenly, disaster struck. He was coming off of Canada Corner. As he turned in under the overpass, the back end came out a little bit. He corrected the front end. He touched the curb with the left front, and then suddenly the car went airborne. It bounced off the race course, hit one barrier, went on, slid almost head-on into a second barrier, splitting the rail, and came to a stop not far from a spectator area. Now, surprisingly enough, despite all that and a destroyed race car, Paul Tracy was uninjured, and he managed to keep his fast time pole speed. His teammate Emerson Fittipaldi turned an identical time, but was off a couple of 10,000ths of a second. A few moments ago, Paul Tracy joined our Gary Gerald.
And Paul, joining us is Bill Stokan, who is the chairman and the chief executive officer of IndyCar Racing. He has a special presentation to Paul Tracy.
Yeah, we sure do. Paul, this is, of course, your first pole. And for all of us at IndyCar Racing, we're proud of having you here. In addition, Marlboro would like you to have the $5,000 check for the award. It is also a special day for the whole Marlboro team in the sense that this is also the 100th pole position taken by Team Penske. So good luck and have a nice race today.
Thank you, Bill. And for Paul Tracy, a memorable weekend already, and certainly a big part of the memory was that ride that you endured yesterday. That had to be a very apprehensive moment.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a bittersweet weekend. We had we were quickest in practice in the morning, and then we were quickest in qualifying, and then it had a crash near the end and had to just sit in the trailer and just, cross all my fingers and thumbs and toes and everything to make sure I could hang on. And, we hang on to the end, and, it's been a goal of mine this year was to set a goal to get into the Marlboro Challenge, and I'm glad I did that.
And he's in a backup car, ready to go racing here at Road America as we go back up to Paul Page.
Well, by a slim margin, but still a pole nonetheless, the 100th for Penske Racing. Starting alongside will be his teammate, Emerson Fittipaldi, hot off a win at Cleveland, looking very strong, and still figuring that he's part of the points fight. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Well, that's right, Paul. He did do that identical time. Also, keep in mind, the first 9 cars in this field are only covered by 1 second. That's on a 4-mile racetrack. but it could be, of course, anybody's race. But Emerson Fittipaldi must be one of the favorites. Now, Emerson, you're coming right off a victory at Cleveland. You've got to have a lot of confidence.
Well, I'm very pleased. You know, the car's running very strong. We had a good setup for the race. I was quick this morning. We solved the misfire problem, the pickup, the fuel pickup, and, you know, everything looking good.
Well, we wish you well, Emerson.
Thanks.
Paul?
All right, so Emerson Fittipaldi is in the cockpit strapped in, as are the rest. A gigantic crowd, a record crowd here at Road America, and they're all waiting to hear this command.
Those famous words. Gentlemen, start your engines.
Down the long straightaway here, all of the drivers in their final moments of preparation before they roll out. There's Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti. Is he looking at a championship this year? We're looking for a very solid run here today, a tactical race as we have suggested, and we are ready to run at Road America. And with the roar of those engines, we're ready to go racing. And Derek Daly, in that field are some emerging young stars.
That's right. Many new names now at the front of IndyCar racing. Stefan Johansson comes here from Formula One. He's right at the front in IndyCar racing. Raul Boesel, again at Detroit, right at the front. Scott Goodyear, now a big name in IndyCar racing because of his success at Indy and the Michigan 500. But Paul Tracy is the most exciting new name to come to IndyCar racing for many, many years. Now, Paul Tracy definitely uses racing cars as disposable items, and he has personally taken a fair old chunk out of Roger Penske's racing budget this year. But let's look at driver style. You can't create excitement and create talent, but if it's over-aggression, you can temper that. And that's one of the things Roger Penske will attempt to do with Paul Tracy, because I believe Roger knows he has a diamond in the rough here. And with a guiding hand and a bit of spit and polish, I think that diamond in the rough can really become a jewel.
A man with a rough time is this man, Eddie Cheever. The rest of the field has rolled away. They are just now trying to get him started. The engine is not running, but Eddie Cheever has had a tough time all weekend. We'll have more on that. Along with Eddie Cheever, the field now beginning to form up on their first parade lap. Let's take a look at how they line up. Here's the diehard starting grid. On the pole is Paul Tracy, who earned his first pole by 4/10,000ths of a second, alongside Emerson Fittipaldi, the winner here at Elkhart Lake in '86, again in '88. In the second row, the inside is Michael Andretti, going for his third win in a row. And Bobby Rahal, the current PPG point leader, with his sights on a third crown. In row number 3 to the inside, Mario Andretti, the only 3-time winner of this race. And Scott Goodyear, the winner of the Michigan 500. In row number 4, it's Scott Pruitt, going for his 7th top 10 finish of the season. And Al Unser Jr., twice a runner-up here at Road America. In row number 5, it's Danny Sullivan, the 1989 Road America champion. And John Andretti, who made his IndyCar debut here in 1987. In row number 6, it's Robbie Gordon, who ran impressively 2 weeks ago at Cleveland. And Raul Boesel, who has 4 top 10 efforts in 5 races here. In row number 7, Scott Brayton, making his 5th start at Elkhart Lake. And Stefan Johansson, who has 3 top 10 efforts in 4 career races. In row number 8, it's Ross Cheever, making his 4th career start in A.J. Foyt's car. And Ted Prappis, a sophomore competitor out of Los Angeles. In the 9th row, it's Eddie Cheever, who has always been in the top 10 here at Road America. And Christian Danner, a rookie driver from Munich, Germany. In row number 10, it's Brian Till, another one of the impressive freshman drivers in IndyCar racing. And Jacques Villeneuve, who scored his only IndyCar win here in 1985. In row 11, it's Eric Bachelard, the reigning Indy Lights champion, and Buddy Lazier, who ran 7th at the Michigan 500. In the 12th row, it's Mike Groff, who finished 8th here last year, with Hiro Matsushita alongside in his 2nd start at Road America. In the final row, it's Vinicio Salmi, the Italian rookie driver, and Ross Bentley, a newcomer out of Canada. And the word just out on Ross Bentley, he will not start. They had a gearbox problem. The look back from Bobby Rahall's car as the field still on this terrifically long course trying to line up, Derek Daly.
One of the great road racing layouts in North America. Great mix of slow, medium, and high-speed corners. The highlighted area here is turns 1 and 2. 135 miles an hour through turn 2. Then the long back straight, 180 miles an hour. Here's the second key area, the carousel and the kink. Very, very difficult. You enter at 135 miles an hour and go to 170 miles an hour through the kink. Then key area number 3, heavy braking for Canada Corner. That's where we can often see most of the action. 4 miles, a lot of good road racing here.
And right there out of turn 13 is where Paul Tracy got in trouble yesterday. As we take a look at Al Unser Jr., 50 laps here, 200 miles. With the length of the course, the fuel window is very narrow. In fact, if you stop on 15, you've committed yourself to a 3-stop race. Weather here is going to be perfect for racing. A little warm in the cockpit, but it's going to be great for the fans here today. Should be a wonderful afternoon for racing at Road America. And in the points fight, well, here's how they distribute out right now, with Emerson Fittipaldi still figuring that he has a mathematical chance to take another PPG crown. And there's laps led thus far this year. Is that overbalanced? Michael Andretti, if only he could have taken those laps all the way to the checkered flag. The way they were in this morning's warm-up session with Bobby Rahal, the quickest. A nice run for Scott Pruitt. Look at Paul Tracy, the pole sitter, his warm-up run down at 127.6 miles an hour.
And Paul Tracy is in a different race car. Now, it takes drivers a little bit of time to get confidence in a new vehicle.
Let's go down pit side, Gary Gerald.
In that morning warm-up, motor problems for Michael Andretti. The crew had the thrash. They've made the change. Now comes the anxiety. Will it perform at 100%? They're about to find out. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Gary, this track has always been one we have to be concerned about fuel. The teams will be watching the fuel very carefully. With a long track, on the gas, hard, they don't get very good fuel economy. But I doubt you'll see anybody run out of fuel with all the computer telemetry, but you will see it affect the pace of the race. Paul?
All right, with some apprehension, all of the crews looking down toward the last turn, waiting for the cars to make their appearance at the bottom of the hill in turn 14 to climb up toward the green flag. I say apprehension because they are a critical part of the victory at this course, perhaps more so than any other track in the PPG IndyCar World Series. There's the view down the hill. In just a moment, the front row, both Penske's should make their appearance there. Looking from Al Unser Jr.'s car, now looking back from Bobby Rahal's. They climb the hill. The pace begins to pick up. They now watch for Nick Finoro's green flag at the top of the field, and he waves them off and says no start, a yellow start. So they will have to realign. Nick Finoro only had a very short time to make a judgment there and saw something he didn't like.
And we saw a glimpse of what Nick Finoro had a clear picture of. Emerson Fittipaldi, who's only second fastest in qualifying, had at least a 2-car length lead on Paul Tracy. The pole sitter is the man that should set the pace. Here it is here. Clearly see Fittipaldi at least 2-car lengths ahead of Paul Tracy, and a good call by Nick Finoro. But look at Michael and Rahal, how close they are together.
Michael wanted to get clear of Tracy. He saw him lagging and was looking for racing room. This straightaway, though, is very narrow at this point. As you can see, it barely holds the 2 cars. And so Michael didn't have any room to maneuver. Nick Finoro saw the Emerson Fittipaldi move to the front and decided to yellow flag the first lap. But the race has started. This is a counting lap. And Derek Daly, already that'll figure into the fuel situation.
Well, of course, that relaxes the fuel situation because now we do 4 miles at very low speed. 1.8 miles to the gallon they will get at racing speed. They're probably doing as many as 6 miles to the gallon at this low speed.
Let's add to that, Jan Beekes.
Well, Derek, you hit it right on the money. They are calculating here that what they're looking for is 3 laps of yellow. Well, here's 1, so only 2 more laps. That means we could have a flat-out race here at Road America. Now, judging by those qualifying speeds, if we do have a flat-out race, boy, that would be great to see them all go for it, not having to worry about fuel. We also have the carousel turn back there that, as you go through there, that could be a place that, depending on whether you're running flat out or running at part throttle, could make a difference for fuel as well. Paul?
We watch the field now, of course, running under yellow, though a scored lap. working their way into the gravel pit area, coming off of the carousel.
And the carousel, one of the great corners on this racetrack. They accelerate so fast and so hard through here. They exit the carousel at about 145 miles an hour and then go through this kink here, absolutely flat out. There's a big bump in the middle, and Ross Cheever flew off the road there in Friday's qualifying. Had a huge, frightening moment.
So now single file, they will come through the final corners of this course. That's Canada corner right there. They'll head up under an overpass. There you see it. And make a final turn to the right and again climb the hill. There's the 14th and final corner on this circuit. You got a glimpse from the course marshals of yellow flags flying. They are now realigned into their rows of 2. And we'll see if Nicky likes this one. It's a green flag, and the Texaco Haviland 200 is underway as they are drag raced down to the first turn, and Paul Tracy darts in front of his teammate. Emerson Fittipaldi into second, and Michael Andretti drops into third place with Bobby Rahal coming up to battle. Just behind them, Mario Andretti and Scott Goodyear begin a fight.
And Paul Tracy takes full advantage of his pole position down the inside, and it's very difficult to outbrake a driver as aggressive as Paul Tracy.
And one car into the barrier already.
Ross Cheever straight into the tire guardrail.
Shades of A.J. Foyt's accident. Same car, well, number 14, right off the end of the main stretch. And it looks like a similar situation, though now the barriers are here and more protection. Course marshal couldn't get that one looped over.
He's going to need more than that to drag that car out of there, but the engine is still running. We can hear that, so if they can put him back out of the tires, he can probably come back into the pit lane and see if there's any.
And the good news is with the long lap, they have plenty of time to work on it. Look at Al Unser Jr. as he comes under Bobby Rahal, takes the position. They climb up off of 5, and now Al Unser Jr. is able to pull away in the carousel.
It is in the carousel. This car is very, very good under braking. Now remember, the tires are not up to optimum working temperature yet, but Al Jr. still takes advantage of it. Listen to Rahal's chassis rubbing the ground, full of fuel running right on the deck.
Down through the kink, the backstretch. There you hear it.
They have rubbing strips underneath these cars so as they can run them on the ground if necessary. Now, rather than damage the chassis, they have metal rubbing blocks to save too much damage.
So Bobby Rahal running full load, trying to catch up to the leaders of the race as we're ready to score the end of lap number 1. And Paul Tracy looking very solid in the first lap, taking the lead of the race. This is actually the conclusion of lap 2, but the first racing lap at Road America, and Paul Tracy has the lead over Emerson Fittipaldi. At Road America, coming to the conclusion of the third lap, Paul Tracy, taking advantage of his pole position, is running in front. Emerson Fittipaldi, who started second, is staying there. Michael Andretti was able to resolve a battle with Bobby Rahal, move into third with his father Mario just behind, and Al Unser Jr. by getting around Rahal, now runs in 5th place. So the fight is on. A very tactical day lies ahead. There comes Michael down the hill. There's Mario, Al Unser Jr., Bobby Rahal, and Scott Pruitt beginning now to close on Rahal as Rahal scores on Jr.
Rahal still hanging on to the back of Junior. You mentioned Scott Pruitt. Very difficult situation Scott Pruitt is in. He is unemployed as we speak for next year because True Sports, we all know, have gone away. Difficult situation for Pruitt because he's been involved in this development program for so long and really got nothing out of it.
Key passing area there. You saw that Pruitt was trying very hard to get down on the back of Bobby Rahal. That's station 5, and he's beginning now to smoke at the back of the engine. That's more than brake smoke, Derek.
That is more than brake smoke. Scott Pruitt could be in trouble here at the very early stages. Great disappointment because from a driver's point of view, you need all the laps you can get in a good racing car to display your talent. If you sit in the pit wall, nobody knows, because in racing, you're only as good as your last event.
There's Bobby Rahal now, for the most part, unchallenged by Scott Pruitt. If that is, in fact, an engine going away, that's going to be a terrible disappointment to that team who really wanted to do well. This is the start of the race. The actual racing start from Michael Andretti's position in the second row.
Now, if you look, Emerson actually had a car length on Paul Tracy, but Paul Tracy must have timed it absolutely perfectly on the run to the braking area. And look at this, Emerson chops across in front of Michael.
Al Unser Jr.'s view as he was charging up on the back of Bobby Rahal in a battle for 4th place as well, 5th place. And Al Unser Jr. as they come down, heading down Hurry Downs for the carousel, making that left. And boy, look at how fast little Al was able to get under Rahal under braking.
And look and how close those wheels got. Talk about wheel-to-wheel, open-wheel racing. But a nice move by Al Jr. And again, you could hear his car rubbing on the deck. That's how close he runs his. But look at Rahal now.
Yeah, Bobby's not giving up at all. He is back on the tail end of Al Unser Jr.'s car in an ongoing battle now for 5th place. And Scott Pruitt, whatever might have been the problem at the back of his car, it seems to have cleaned up. Let's get an update on that from Jan Beekes.
Well, when you're both talking about bottoming, when Derek Daly is talking about the cars dragging on the deck, remember that it has wood on the bottom. The smoke we're seeing from Scott Pruitt, they feel is just the wood burning and causing that smoke. Paul?
Well, it really looked like it continued on under acceleration through Hurry Downs, and it might have been a display at the back of the engine. We'll keep a close monitor on it. Derek, it looked like Bobby Rahal almost had little Al under braking.
That was a major attack by Rahal on Al Jr. In fact, I thought he was going to try and make an attempt. That's one of the key areas down at Station 5 or Turn 5. We're now back with Al Jr. This is the difficult carousel area here. Look at the long, long, long right-hander. And now it is flat out through this next right-hand king.
What's happening to some of the cars, most especially the Penske mounts in the carousel, is the fuel, because of the speed and constant radius of the corner, is sloshing over away from the pickup when it's down on low fuel loads, and that's causing the engine to sputter until they get it straightened up and it goes back into the pickup. Now, there seems to be some concern in the team of whether or not that's truly a problem or not. Whatever it is, Emerson Fittipaldi, for one, is not happy with it, and Paul Tracy reported it as well.
Great battle. Al Jr. 5th and 6th place here. Al Jr. will actually drive the 2nd generation Gallmer car later this year at Nazareth, and then Rick Gallis will make a decision as to exactly what chassis his team will use for next year.
You got a glimpse of the Ganassi cars moving finally up to speed. Eddie Cheever had a bit of a problem at the start and couldn't get the car started right away. It's not been a good weekend for Eddie. He was told last night by Chip Ganassi that his contract would not be renewed for next year. And look at this, as here goes Fittipaldi, darts to the inside of Paul Tracy at Station 5 and takes the lead of the race.
That was where
Fittipaldi looking strong.
Looking very strong. That's exactly the same place Rahal tried out Jr. earlier, was not able to get it done. But Fittipaldi, to my mind, actually got it done relatively easy, a lot easier than I thought. But Paul Tracy moved to the right, left the door right open for him.
Let's take a look at that one more time. I mean, it was a really good maneuver, and it took a lot of courage under braking to make that pass.
This is 180 miles an hour. Look at Emerson. He gets right up under the rear wing. I wonder did Tracy miss a gear, because look, Fittipaldi's already alongside almost before they get to the braking area. But Paul Tracy knew that the line has already been taken by Emerson. Now he's going to have to follow the master. But here's the schoolboy now following the teacher.
That's the first time, by the way, that Fittipaldi has led here since 1988. What about, though, the Penske pit strategy? Let's get an update from Gary Gerald.
Paul, you talked about it being a tactical race. The first time we'll see the tactics will be on the first pit stop. Normally, the teams would try to stagger their drivers on successive laps. You don't have that luxury on this 4-mile course. So you're going to have both Penske cars at the same time. They're targeting lap 16. They want to make it this a two-stop pit race, or a two-pit stop race. If, however, they have to come in on 15, as John mentioned earlier, it becomes a 3-stop race. That's what every crew chief along here and their crew members are so conscious about. And the anxiety, you can feel it building in that long wait as they complete lap after lap.
They've just completed lap number 6, and obviously with a course that is 4 miles around. Is that Tracy off?
Yes, Paul Tracy. It is Paul Tracy in the boondocks. This is turn 2, heavy braking. It's a second gear corner, but Paul Tracy off the road. Luckily, he got back on again, was able to drive away, and I don't see too much damage. But that is a long, long lot of time.
And exactly what Paul Tracy can't afford. He has been off course several times this weekend. There's Roger Penske. As a matter of fact, we take a look at, there is Emerson Fittipaldi coming through. Now, watch closely. There goes Tracy, just missing the corner.
Well, I mean, he must have just braked too late. Totally missed his turn-in point. But see the gravel trap? He's lucky he didn't get caught in that and was able to actually keep going through the grass and get back on the race.
Paul Tracy has cost Roger a couple $1 million this weekend, but he did get a $5,000 check just before the starting, and he is in the Marlboro Challenge. Around the lake on public roads, and many of the turns at Road America replicate those turns from the old lake circuit. Now a great recreational area. In the meantime, on the track itself, away from this placid scene, the roar of the engine as Bobby Rahal continues his pursuit of Al Unser Jr. in a battle for 5th place. They work their way up now through 14 and on the main stretch as Rahal fighting the back end. As he lost the back end for a second, it came off the corner. Now, across the stripe, Bobby Rahal has him all set up, has him in position. Can he make the move on him? Bobby Rahal looking for an opportunity inside of Al Unser Jr. And Bobby Rahal moves past little Al once again.
Good, clean pass. We saw Rahal get the car sideways under heavy acceleration off the corner, leading onto that long straight, but he kept the momentum. He kept the momentum and was able to get down inside Al Jr. Al Jr. is very difficult to pass, but Rahal made it look relatively easy.
That's Eddie Cheever's car being pushed aside by the IndyCar safety team and the course marshals here from both Chicago and Milwaukee region of the SCCA. Eddie Cheever just got out of the car, walked off into the woods.
Terrible weekend for Eddie Cheever. He had a gearbox problem on Friday, lost almost all the track time, had more trouble Saturday. Now he realizes his contract will not be renewed for next year. Cheever just has not been able to fulfill the promise that he has shown in the first couple of years he's been over here. So not a good weekend for Eddie at all.
Fight continues between between Bobby Rahal now and Mario Andretti, as Al Unser Jr. has pretty well fallen off of this fight. Paul Tracy, by the way, when he went off course, dropped to 11th place from 2nd, and now has worked his way up 1 position. So Paul Tracy should be carving his way up through the field as just the obviously faster car, but he must be very careful.
And one of the questions asked this weekend was, why are the Penske's suddenly so fast? Well, they believe they have at least 13 more horsepower from this Chevrolet engine. Did you see Rahal poke his nose down the inside? He is looking very strong. But Rahal, the point I'm trying to make is, Rahal also has a development engine this weekend, a development of the Chevrolet A engine, mainly around the plenum area, which is the top of the engine, and he believes that also gives more horsepower.
So now the challenge is for 3rd place, Mario Andretti. Bobby Rahal is right there looking for racing room. Canada corner lies just ahead. There's a braking opportunity here. So fighting for his 3rd championship season, Rahal currently leads with 32 points. We asked him how confident he is.
Well, I think it's, I mean, obviously having 31 points or whatever it is a plus, but it's not enough to, you know, I can't go play golf for the rest of the season and still win the championship. You know, it's a nice lead, but we've got to continue to pad it, in my estimation. It is getting very tough. The Penske's seem to be running a little bit stronger now. So, you know, before maybe it was Michael and myself. Now all of a sudden Emerson's in there, and you know, and Tracy's obviously running well, and Junior ran well in Cleveland. So it's getting a little bit more competitive, which probably, if nothing else, maybe helps my cause more so than hurts it, because more people can act as a spoilers between Michael and I.
So Bobby Rahal, the one thing he can't afford is a mistake. Emerson Fittipaldi just turned the fastest lap in the race at 131 miles an hour, while Tracy still tries to work his way up, and Rahal continuing to worry Mario Andretti for 3rd.
Absolutely. We have a pressure situation here for Mario, because Rahal is inching closer now. Mario will be watching every move Rahal makes, a little look in the mirror to watch what he's doing. I haven't seen Mario drive defensively yet, but he is definitely worried about Rahal at this stage.
The leader of the race, Emerson Fittipaldi, is unchallenged by 2nd place Michael Andretti at the moment. Michael's 4 seconds back. And then this battle that we're watching between Mario Andretti and Bobby Rahal there in the 12 car is another 4 seconds back from that. So this is really the only battle at the front of the field at the moment. Fittipaldi has a clear day, and with this long course, he'll have plenty of opportunity to try to put distance on the rest of the field before they come to the first pit stops, which should be 6 or 7 stops away, or laps away.
See how much he closes up under braking, but that's twice in a row now. We've gone to Rahal's in-car camera, and there's actually water droplets on the camera lens, so I don't know where that's coming from.
could be potentially some blowback from the other car, but more likely that film that keeps the lens clean. It's a celluloid that moves in front of the lens. Does have some dampness in it as a lubrication point, if nothing else. Now, what about Eddie Cheever and some of the other changes? Let's go to Jan Vikas.
Well, Paul, we've checked in with the Chip Ganassi crew to find out what happened to Eddie Cheever's car. The radio communication was out, so they have no idea what happened to the car. But it's interesting. We talked about Eddie's contract. Well, it's amazing who shows up in the pits. Of course, Ari Leindijk with his wife, Mika. They're very interested spectators, of course. There's speculation that he might join this team next year. Speaking of pit stops, Paul, with that one lap of yellow, people are now talking they might go one more before we see them down here. Paul?
We'll keep an eye on the pit boards. Of course, radio communication back and forth between the cars, though sometimes on this circuit, because of its size and because of the trees, radio communication with the cars on the backside is a little scattered at best. Bobby Rahal continuing his pursuit. Mario Andretti, a battle for third place. Behind them, Al Unser Jr., then Scott Pruitt, who is still running fine. That smoke apparently did come off of the underside of the car. After Scott Pruitt, John Andretti in 7th, and Scott Goodyear runs in 8th. Danny Sullivan is in 9th, and Paul Tracy is still locked here in 10th place. So there's the fellow that was the pole sitter, also the leader of the race early on, and he now is trying to slice his way up through this field. So Paul Tracy running back in 10th. His teammate Emerson Fittipaldi is running at the front of the field and beginning now to pull away. He's put a couple more tenths on second place, Michael Andretti. Back at Road America, as we take a look at now the interval, first to second, 4.7 seconds to Michael Andretti, and then from Fittipaldi back to Mario, 13 seconds. All of those intervals are back from the leader of the race, Emerson Fittipaldi. Nice little battle developing now between John Andretti, Scott Goodyear, and Paul Tracy. It's an overall battle for 7th place.
And it is a good battle. Scott Goodyear, one of the names we mentioned at the top of the show, has been a front runner this year in IndyCar racing. And this weekend, he qualified 6th, which was his best road course qualifying this weekend. And he looks as if he's about to try and attempt to make a pass on John Andretti, who qualified 10th.
This battle runs about 20 seconds behind the lead of the race. Scott Goodyear closing now. Here is Bobby Rahal making another try on Mario Andretti in turn 1. He can't get it done. Al Unser Jr. does close in a bit on that attempt as well. And Al Unser Jr. has rejoined this battle now for 3rd place.
And we see Rahal yet again. He has a little look down the inside. That's just to remind Mario, by the way, I'm here. Oh, Goodyear makes it. He gets inside John Andretti. We just caught a good glimpse of that under braking for turn 2. Goodyear gets that position.
Down through the woods on board with Al Unser Jr. for a moment. Look at Tracy. Tracy tries to get a pass on a straightaway and tries to get position going into 5. He can't get it, but he does get around John Andretti, and Scott Goodyear is the benefactor of most of that as he climbs the hill well ahead of the other 2.
Yeah, Tracy will give you a heart attack just watching it. Wonder what it's like inside the car.
You said he was an exciting driver. There's the evidence of it, using every inch and then some to try and move a pass on John Andretti.
This racetrack is not wide enough for Paul Tracy. Watch what happens here now. Goodyear is trying to block John Andretti, but look, he doesn't realize that Tracy, his fellow Canadian, is trying to go around the inside. Tracy gets on the grass, but look, he keeps coming. He keeps the charge going down the inside. So John Andretti loses 2 positions to Goodyear and the man filled with aggression, Paul Tracy.
He's been off course so many times this weekend, some of the chipmunks are beginning to recognize him. Yeah. Paul Tracy up under the bridge now. There he is as he works his way down through Canada Corner. And the leader of the race is his teammate. There's Scott Goodyear. Emerson Fittipaldi leads the race. Scott Goodyear is beginning now to move forward after he got around John Andretti. He was beginning to look very, very solid and is pulling away.
So Paul Tracy now, this was a great battle at the Michigan 500 between the 2 Canadians. And don't tell me that emotion doesn't play a part here, because these 2 fellas get tremendous headlines on a national level all over Canada. They now follow every move they make in racing. So Tracy wants to beat Goodyear, and Goodyear wants to beat Tracy.
So the Michigan 500 battle rejoined all over again. 2 of the great new names in the sport, Tracy and Goodyear, as they fight one another, though Paul Tracy is making up for lost time suffered after he drove off a corner recovered the car and was able to get back on the course in 11th position, but in doing so he fell from 2nd down to 11th place. Now the pit stops should be coming up shortly. What is expected? Let's start with Jan Beekes.
Well, I'm standing by and what they will go through before they get to the pits, and that is the chicane that they have to negotiate as they come off that final turn. Without the chicane, they probably go by here at about 150 miles an hour. But now they have to slow down, negotiate the chicane. Check out the cones here. They have different colored cones, so they get that depth perception. Watching the cars go through here in practice is incredible. They come through here, and we found out last year it could affect the outcome of the race. They're going to come in, slip and slide, just fly through here, and of course that'll make a difference in which pit you're pitted in, how that will work for that pit strategy. Now Gary Gerald's going to tell us about how they choose that pit strategy and of course who is where. Gary?
Well, Jan, it's determined on the qualifying from the previous race, how your car or team qualified at Cleveland.
Gary, let me interrupt you just a second. Paul Tracy just took a shot at Scott Goodyear going into Canada corner and lost it and is off course again. I'm sorry, Gary, to interrupt you with that, but that was something. If we can go back to Gary now, let's do it.
Well, it's based on qualifying from the previous race. This is the team, the Gallus team with Al Unser Jr. that says, frankly, they lost this race last year because of the fact that they were pitted at the opposite end. They slowed down for the chicane, had to speed up, then slow down and hit their pit. This year, they're up in the number 6 pit box, so they're among the front runners. They'll make a quick pit stop. It cost them the race last year. They hope they'll have a chance to contend this year. All the hot dogs are down at this end, Paul.
So Paul Tracy, we watch him sitting off the course. The course marshals are there, and this, Derek, is what happened.
This is Canada corner. We mentioned this in the opening. He locks the rear brakes. Look at the rear brakes locked up. They smoke. And now look what happens. He is in major league trouble here because the gravel trap is designed to catch that racing car and bury it deep in the gravel. Therefore, you can't get out. So Tracy will have a difficult time getting out of there.
Paul Tracy definitely with problems today. A man without problems, but with a good battle on his hand is Ray Hall as he challenges Mario Andretti down at station 5, ducks under him on the inside. Classic pass. Very nice maneuver.
Oh, classic pass. But did you see him lock up that left front? Mario moved to the middle of the road to make it as difficult as possible on Ray Hall, trying to put him off making the attempt. However, Ray Hall was coming down like a freight train, so if Mario moved over anymore, there was definitely going to be contact.
So back from Bobby Rahal, the look backwards on this long and beautiful circuit at Road America with Emerson Fittipaldi still out in front. Michael Andretti runs in second. Fittipaldi just motored past his teammate Paul Tracy, who still sits in the sand trap just off of Canada corner after attempting a pass and losing it, and he stopped there. The Penske team, though, is waiting for the arrival of Emerson Fittipaldi as the leader of the race, who comes on to pit road and is ready for a stop. Let's go to Gary.
Paul, he's in the very first pit, so the crew stands by and waits. He comes blowing in here, now gets right on the mark, has to lock up the tires just a little bit as he makes the stop, and the refueling in the fields begins. Everything looking routine for Fittipaldi. Thumbs up from the rear of the car. They'll wait to come off the jack. He's out of here.
And Bobby Rahal comes into the pits as well. Here's Jan.
Bobby Rahal puts the car right on the marks as Al Unser Jr. comes right next door for his pit stop. They're making a front wing change. They are going up. That means he had push. They're now waiting for the final bit of fuel. Bobby Rahal is out of here. We're going to watch the final completion of Al Unser Jr. Al Unser Jr. is now just waiting for his fuel. The last wheel nut's tight. Get that wheel out of the way quick. Okay, he's out of here. Paul?
15 seconds in and out for Al Unser Jr. Nice job for the Gallus Braco team. Michael Andretti flashed by as Emerson Fittipaldi rolled into the pits. So Michael Andretti has picked up the lead of the race, but he should be due into the pits for a stop on the next lap, as is Paul Tracy. The team has begun to lay out for him as well, as if they expect him to climb that hill. Maybe they have some information that indicates that they're going to get him out of the gravel pit shortly. The Newman Haas team, they're laid out and waiting for this man, Michael Andretti.
A man that looks to us now that he's getting the best fuel mileage of everybody in this race, because his digital readout on his dashboard that he can read obviously did not say he needed to pit with everybody else. So good fuel mileage on this Ford engine.
That was Canada corner they just worked through. You saw the IndyCar safety team trying to get Paul Tracy out. Now here is the right-hand turn. And Michael should make a move to the right very quickly if he intends to go into the pits. He does so. And so Michael Andretti now climbing up for a pit stop, his first of the day. Michael Andretti through the chicane and rolls to Gary Gerald. So here comes Michael in. There's the fuel vent going in right in front of our rearward-looking camera. Looks like a routine stop. All tires changed. The fuel flowing into this car. Michael Andretti maintains the lead while he sits here. So Michael Andretti still in good shape. His father comes in behind him. Michael Andretti is still the leader of the race as he rolls out of the pits. But Emerson Fittipaldi is on the main stretch and running at full speed. Fittipaldi will race Michael Andretti to the first turn and try and get around him to pick up the lead of the race. But Michael Andretti comes out nice and clean.
And it is a drag race, and Michael is still leading the drag race because Emerson did not get by. There it is here. Now remember, Emerson has done a full lap. He's got warm tires. Look at this. Michael's going to try and block him.
Very dangerous maneuver for Michael as they come down to an extremely hard braking area, and Michael on brand new tires, not fully up to temperature yet, but Michael is going to be right there. He's going to challenge Emerson Fittipaldi despite the fact that Fittipaldi got around him, but no, Fittipaldi hangs on. The earlier stop pays off a little bit.
And you see what Emerson did. Just because he knew Michael might attempt to come down the inside, Emerson made sure under braking, he went down the middle of the road, made sure Michael had no room, then he moved back to take the apex of the corner.
A veteran savvy out of Emerson Fittipaldi. And now he moves under Buddy Lazier, who is running back in the field, and Emerson Fittipaldi has regained the lead that he lost to this man, Michael Andretti, for a single lap. But the real telling story may be the fuel situation, Derek. The fact that Michael went one lap further.
That will be a telling situation if Emerson cannot go long enough on this fuel load here. This will be the critical one. He needs to go the same length again to make it on 2 stops. But Michael and his crew certainly got an advantage during those pit stops because he's now closer to Emerson than he was before he went in.
So the first stops have now been complete, and there are some changes throughout those stops. Here is Paul Tracy. Of course, he is not part of the fight at all now, as the team working on the car and getting him back into running order. This is when everybody left just a few laps ago. Of course, that's a product of everyone stopping together, which if they are dialed into the race, they will all make their stop on the same lap, except, of course, as Derek has pointed out, Michael Andretti is getting really excellent mileage and looking very strong, was able to drive 1 lap further than Emerson Fittipaldi, and that may pay off at the end. We'll continue from Road America right after this.
You see Sullivan?
Well, John Andretti just got himself into trouble at Canada Corner, spun around, was narrowly missed by Danny Sullivan. At the lead of the race, it's Emerson Fittipaldi with Michael Andretti chasing him. In third place now after the first stops was Bobby Rahal, then Mario Andretti, then Al Unser Jr. Behind little Al is Scott Pruitt. You just got a glimpse of him. There he is with Scott Goodyear chasing him. And Danny Sullivan runs in 8th place just behind this battle.
And a good indication of how these cars handle is in the morning warm-up. And Scott Pruitt was second fastest on a full tank of fuel in the morning's warm-up. So we expected him to run well, and it's exactly what he's doing. Currently in a very good 6th place. But Goodyear, the other Scott, is still closing in.
Ongoing battle for 6th place. And there's Villeneuve in trouble. His car at a dead stop. And the IndyCar safety people have come out to get him out of the way and out of harm's way. Only any IndyCar race that he ever won was one right here at Road America. Another interesting name, the first winner here, Hector Rabake. And look at the battle as Al Unser Jr. charges on Mario Andretti and takes 4th away from Mario.
Exactly the same position on the racetrack that Rahal pulled the same move on Mario. Al Jr. goes down the inside under heavy braking and just makes a tight turn to the apex and gets the job done. So Mario, that is not his favorite corner on the racetrack.
What about the Galmer chassis that little Al is driving? It's a chassis that seems to show well on courses with great long straightaways.
It does show well. It's had tremendous success. Probably not as good as they would have liked to overall handling, and particularly on high-speed corners. But they do have a second-generation car. I mentioned it earlier. It's being built up at the moment. Al Jr. will take it to Nazareth, will evaluate it, and then Rick Ellis makes a decision whether he pushes the button to build his own car again or to go with a customer Lola.
Here's that same situation once again. Nice little pass for Al Unser Jr. Mario just in front of him.
Turn 8. Classic racing pass. Mario leaves the door open. I'm not sure he expected Al to make that pass. Mario did not make it difficult in any way, shape, or form, and Al Jr. slides down the inside and picks up another valuable position.
Well, Paul Tracy now running 22nd, 4 laps behind the leaders. Some of the situations that have put Tracy in trouble is things like this.
I don't think Paul Tracy knows any limits, really. It's almost as if he can do and pass anybody. Now, that was an impossible situation, as we saw, to try and get past Scott Goodyear, yet he's content to try it anyway. Gets himself in a lot of trouble, but they definitely need to sit Paul down and tie a big rope around him and calm him down a little bit.
What's the reaction of this man, Gary Gerald?
Well, Roger Penske, what is the reaction of Paul Tracy's day? Is it now just a furtherance of the learning curve? Is that what you've got him doing out here?
Well, I think that we're trying to get him back out. Unfortunately, locked up the brakes. He said the brakes were maybe a little bit too much to the rear, and he was trying to go under Goodyear and spun it. We're just putting him back out there to get miles. He's done a good job for us. We just got to root for Emerson right now.
Is there such a thing as being too aggressive as a young driver?
Well, I think that we got to let him go. He's done a good job. I'd rather have me pulling him back than pushing him forward.
Well, we'll keep an eye on Emo and Tracy. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
There it is from the captain himself. Exactly what you said at starting.
That is the major key. You cannot make great talent and make aggression, but you can sure temper it and control it, and that's what Penske is doing with Paul Tracy. And when Tracy has an owner like Roger Penske who shows that type of confidence, it sure does feel good for a young driver.
Emerson Fittipaldi turning up the laps, leading the most thus far. Average speed is beginning to approach the race record of 126 miles an hour. And of course, we ran that first lap under caution when Nick Finoro, the starter, didn't like the move that Emerson Fittipaldi put on the start. And so they went for a full course yellow before they started racing for earnest. But though that first lap is in fact scored as a lap in the race.
Here's a Ford engine versus 2 Chevrolets. A great battle here on the racetrack. Things are so close here, they can't quite make a move. They're trying to size each other up here. But look at Scott Pruitt. Oh, he comes down the inside of the racetrack and makes Goodyear go around the outside. Look at this.
Oh, what a maneuver as Mario Andretti sits in front and they tap, and Scott Pruitt loses part of the front of the car. But a super maneuver. He's trying and trying very hard, but that will make a difference. In fact, you wonder now what the IndyCar officials will say about that. I would suspect they will bring that car in under the black flag because there are some dangling parts. It just looks like support wires, but on the right front there's some stuff loose, and you don't want that to drop off and get under either Scott's wheels or anyone else's.
And a major understeer or push situation now. But look what happened. He got himself, he made his own trouble here. Scott Goodyear tries to come down the inside. Look at Pruitt. He moves to the right side of your screen, makes Goodyear go around the outside. Goodyear said, okay, I'm going to make an attempt. Here's a difficult situation. Now Goodyear has nowhere to go. He turns in, turns in, turns in. Now watch what happens here. Look at Pruitt's front wing. Look, look. That's it. That's it. Race is over. Pruitt will not recover from that. The car will not handle well. He may even have to go to the pit lane to see if he can effect repairs.
The only thing that perhaps will work to his advantage is they're going to a full course yellow. And they'll slow the cars down, send out the PPG pace car. Scott Pruitt will have a chance to repair, though that will be a tough repair. Maybe they can slap a whole new nose assembly on there. The Kohler Design Center in Kohler, Wisconsin, not far from this track. You talk about a company town. Well, the Kohlers came here, built the town for the company, built this, which is now the American Club, to house the immigrants that they were bringing over to work at the company. It's now a top flight resort. In fact, Roger Penske likes to stay there. On board now with Bobby Rahal. And remember, Scott Pruitt was in trouble as he came in to the pits. Here was the situation as the crew had to replace that, and just as I thought, swapped a nose. Boy, is that easy?
Swap the nose, the only thing he can do, because it actually loses less time making the pit stop, particularly under yellow, than it would if he stayed out there and lost a couple of seconds every time he went around.
Derek, how do they know that nose has the same settings as the one on the course?
Because it's preset and ready for the race before the race ever starts. And a rear wing is also sitting in his pit lane with exactly the same settings should he need a rear wing.
They in fact do that on all the backup equipment. The minute they make a change on the car, they make it to the backup. You're looking at the top 5 as we run down through the order, and we are still running under the yellow flag. Gary Gerald, you have an update?
Just checking in on the Scott Goodyear pit, apparently involved in that contact with Pruitt. Derek Walker says they believe the car is okay. Even though they have full course yellow, they're electing to leave him on course at this time, Paul.
All right, so we run under the full course yellow. There's Bobby Rahal. One component of the IndyCar that is crucial to the control of power is called the pop-off valve. Now, Jan Beekes can explain that.
We often talk about the pop-off valve in IndyCar racing, but what does it do? Well, with a turbocharged engine, the amount of power that's produced is very much dictated by the turbo pressure, which is built in the inlet manifold, or plenum as it's called. Now, the job of the pop-off valve is a way for the organizers to limit that boost pressure. In other words, if the pressure goes up too high, the valve actually pops open. When it does that, it releases the pressure, you lose lots of horsepower. Have to be very careful not to do that. The driver, therefore, will listen through a tube which comes right up next to his ear. He can actually adjust the turbo boost from the cockpit. There's a cockpit adjustment, and wants to adjust it just high enough to where this pop-off valve is just leaking a little bit. Now, this is critical because 1 inch of mercury here difference can mean 15 horsepower at the rear wheels. And you can see it's actually sealed. That's because this valve is assigned to this car, and each morning it will be delivered to the team. Each evening it's taken by cart and it's checked over very carefully on their own special equipment. Now, they say each one of these valves is tuned right to 1/10 of an inch of mercury, but the teams say, well, they all vary a little bit. Maybe that's because the bumps the cars are going over and also the vibrations of the engine.
On the backside of the course, here is how they are lined up, with Emerson Fittipaldi leading Michael Andretti. And we look through the entire top 10 here, with Stefan Johansson, Robbie Gordon, and Raul Boesel having a good run. Now, we should be in very good shape for a green flag. The course is clear. Nick Finoro looking down toward the bottom of the hill once again, as they are still over on the backside of the course. Later today, here on ESPN, the Volvo International from New Haven. That will follow the Mickey Thompson Off-Road Championship. Don't forget Lendl and Edberg against one another, same-day coverage. So a great afternoon of sports continuing here on ESPN. Tonight it's baseball, St. Louis versus Atlanta. And of course, SportsCenter will keep us updated on all goings-on in the sports world. One of the facts they'll be reporting is the winner of this race. Will it be this man, Emerson Fittipaldi? Will he move forward in the points and continue to stay alive in the PPG points fight? The pace car is off. Fittipaldi climbs the hill. Michael Andretti just behind him as the green flag comes out once again as they start the 24th lap, and they start a fight with Bobby Rahal closing on Michael.
And Michael tries to block him. He's in the middle of the road, realizes Rahal doesn't have enough room. He moves back to the outside and then gets under braking. But look at Rahal fight this car in his attempts to stay with Michael.
Michael Andretti made that car rather wide indeed, heading down into the first turn, and now pursues Michael Andretti. Emerson Fittipaldi got a little bit of a jump on the green flag. That's one of the advantages of leading back to the green from a caution, but really not so much as look at Michael and Rahal come down the hill, and Al Unser Jr. is closing in too.
Rahal has another little look down the inside to tell Michael, I'm here. I think Rahal likes that very deep inside braking line. He's going to have a look to see is it nice and clean and clear if he does want to use it to attempt to pass Michael later on.
They close up a little tighter. Michael Andretti, Bobby Rahal, Al Unser Jr. all battling for second place. There's the leader of the race, Emerson Fittipaldi, but Michael is closing in, and everybody closes down. It's a tight battle at the front.
Particularly under braking. That's one of the great things about yellow flag situations, that bunches everybody up again and virtually starts a whole new race as we watch Rahal and now Al Jr. just accelerate so fast through the carousel, and now through this very difficult 160-mile-an-hour kink.
Still a flat-out corner, throttle all the way to the floor through here, but the race car is on tiptoes as it passes through that area and has to be perfectly aligned to do so. Now Canada corner, that's where Paul Tracy ran off earlier, and and they climb back up under the bridge. See the yellow flag, the red stripes? That means that that corner is slick. It could be oil, it could be sand, it could be water.
Could be anything, but at least it alerts the driver to be careful that there's something is not right here as we watch Mario slip and slide and go right off the road over that rumble strip, trying to use every inch of available grip that he can get.
You know, that's what I find amazing as we watch Mario Andretti on the main stretch, the pit stretch here. Watch as they come down. They're making the first corner here. There is Danny Sullivan as he battles with Robbie, and Robbie Gordon moves around and picks up the slot from Danny Sullivan.
And does it the hard way again. Sullivan moved to the inside, saying to Gordon, if you want to try and take me, you got to do it the hard way. Gordon responds and gets the job done, but Robbie Gordon having one of his very, very good weekends here in a 91 Lola 40. He had hoped to use the 92 that Cheever uses as a backup. However, team tactics changed. He is in a 91, but gaining experience on this very steep learning curve for the star of the future.
Boy, you see the smoke curl off those tires under heavy braking from Robbie Gordon. He knows that Danny Sullivan is still there and very dangerous to that position.
And you see him kick that rear end out as he accelerates away in second and third gear there. Danny Sullivan now can watch Gordon. For sure, Gordon will pull away a little bit, but Gordon, another one of these aggressive drivers. Remember, he's been famous in off-road racing, so whether he's on the road, on the grass, in the gravel, doesn't make any difference to him as long as he has his foot hard down on the power.
You saw a few moments ago, Scott Pruitt was able to get a new nose on that car. So let's go down pit side and find out what Jan Beekes has found out about that change.
Well, Paul, they made that change in an unbelievable 7 seconds. What we're looking at here, this is the Hall VDS nose of John Andretti. This is a Lola nose. If they had to change this one, because of all the fasteners all the way around, this takes a minute and a half, 2 minutes to change, 7 seconds for the True Sports car. Now, of course, they're getting ready to design cars for next year. They might want to keep that in mind. You see this cover here? And remember, you asked and Derek responded as to how do you know the car's going to handle the same? That's because they always set up these wings with the proper setup, and they don't want the other competitors to know what's on their car on the track. Paul?
So we continue to watch Robbie Gordon and Danny Sullivan. Gordon in the Lola machine, Ford powered, just behind him Sullivan. What we're now calling the Chevy A+ engine. It's the engine that has been so successful for Chevy all along, but don't think that in any way it's the same. Whoa, look at Robbie as they run well off. That was one of the corners marked as slick, and he used every inch of that. The Chevy A engine has continued under development. It's got a lot of new parts in it, so it's not an engine that just stopped when they decided that they had the B engine, or even for that matter, the C engine now under development. I was about to say, as you see Robbie there, the mark of a really great driver is to know how wide the car and how wide the course is. You saw it with Robbie, you've seen it with Michael and with Mario and with Emerson, especially coming off of turn 3 here, where they will use the little couple, extra 14, 15 inches of runoff, but use it right to the last inch and get a little bit more speed because they do so.
And Robbie Gordon is driving the wheels off this Chip Ganassi car, and he is about to join this battle here between Scott Goodyear and Mario Andretti. Robbie Gordon is only about 2 seconds behind this battle.
And this is a fight for 5th place. You see Robbie Gordon closing in, but closing in too is Scott Goodyear, who tries to position himself on Mario Andretti. A right-hand, right-angle turn just ahead. They come through that smoothly. But look at Scott Goodyear as he pushes his nose in. He knows this next corner is a little bit of a left, but if he can get that nose up there, there's a very important right-hander coming. He can't do it. Mario, with the Ford power, is able to out-accelerate that Ford Cosworth. Very strong on these long straightaways, and they should distance a little bit now.
And Robbie Gordon, now look at him. He's almost up with Scott Goodyear, so he's about to fill his mirrors and give him very much a headache, while Goodyear tries to, in fact, pressure Mario.
Critical corner here now, the first turn, as Scott Goodyear looks for racing room with Mario Andretti. But no, it's not going to happen. But what impressed me is Scott Goodyear stayed with Mario all the way up the hill and down the long straightaway. Really? Now he pokes his nose in again. He slaps the brakes hard, puts some smoke off the tires. Now Robbie Gordon is here. Look how much he used that corner. Now they're on the long second straight. down through the woods. It's important here to be very fast because there's no crosswinds at this point. The wood protects the car, and now, look, Danny Sullivan closes on Robbie Gordon.
Oh, risky situation here for everybody. Goodyear needs to get by Mario, but he's in danger of losing his position from Robbie Gordon. But Robbie Gordon really, really doing a good job.
Great piece of racing there. More work going on Scott Pruitt's car. Apparently more trouble than they originally anticipated as Emerson Fittipaldi continues his lead. Past the halfway point at Road America with 28 laps complete. Bobby Rahal continues to worry Michael Andretti in an ongoing challenge for second place. There's first through fourth. You saw Fittipaldi, got a quick glimpse of him. Then Michael, then Rahal. Just behind Rahal is Al Unser Jr. as he comes into view once again. They work their way off of the carousel. Anything could happen, Derek.
You're absolutely right. Any hiccup, any small mistake here, and the driver behind you will absolutely gobble up that advantage. Emerson is only just over 2 seconds ahead in the lead.
Here's an important program change for you. Note the Volvo International from New Haven, Connecticut. Live coverage. Final round tomorrow, 11 o'clock Eastern. That'll be the winner of Edberg Glendale. As now Al Unser Jr. works his way around this course, riding in fourth place, looking ahead, trying to catch Bobby Rahal. Michael Andretti, there's the whole interval rundown. Michael Andretti in second, and is closing, just beginning to chew away at that lead of Emerson Fittipaldi.
And he is chewing away. Remember, just under 2 seconds at 190 miles an hour is not very long. You sure make up that time in a hurry. But now we're back again with this great battle between Scott Goodyear, Mario Andretti, Robbie Gordon, and Danny Sullivan. And there's Stefan Johansson at the end of this line. Johansson pops up. Now he's joined this freight train.
Fittipaldi still in front. Look at Scott Goodyear. Look at how they use I love that corner.
Goodyear looks a little bit faster than Mario, but he can't quite get the pass done because he was about 4 or 5 car lengths behind earlier, and he's able to drag himself up under Mario's rear wing. But Mario will make it very difficult, particularly under braking, because he'll use the middle of the road.
Danny Sullivan works his way up the hill. There's the rest of the field coming through. The battle continues here. Nice little fight with some really excellent drivers on a truly terrific race course. Road America is a wonderful challenge, and I'll tell you, it's used. Look at this. Look at this. There's Scott, and he's got him.
And Robbie Gordon gets him too. Same position that Mario lost out to Al Jr. and Bobby Rahal. Mario's car is not happy down there. But did you see that Mario turned in, and eventually had to give up, or else there was going to be contact.
And the car really seemed to roll over to the front as he got down hard on the brakes. Mario Andretti, as you suggested, the car just doesn't like that corner. Of course, all of racing is a compromise. They may give away that corner so they can be much faster in other sections. But there, it cost Mario Andretti 5th place and brought both Scott Goodyear and Robbie Gordon forward.
And Robbie Gordon was the one that had a grandstand view of exactly what was going on there. He saw the opportunity of both cars beginning to fight for the same piece of road, kept his foot in it, and boom, made the pass quicker than I think he even thought himself. But look at Rahal now, all over Mario's son, Michael.
Bobby Rahal still chases Michael Andretti. Emerson Fittipaldi still the leader of the race, and Fittipaldi picked up an advantage with the battle going on between these two. He jumped from 1.7 seconds to now 2.5 in front of this fight. You got a glimpse of Fittipaldi. There's the battle for second place. We'll take a look at that pass with Mario Andretti. He was running in 5th place.
It's under braking for turn 8. Same position as Al Jr. and Rahal. Look at Goodyear. Shoots down the inside. Mario turns in. Right here, right here. He's still beside him. Eventually, he says, okay, you're away. But look at Gordon. Look what he did. Great opportunistic move by Robbie Gordon.
And terrific piece of driving by Scott Goodyear. Let's get an update on him from Jan Beekes.
Well, Paul, we had just checked in with Derek Walker, the team owner. We asked if he could get by Mario. He said, no, we're going to stay behind him because we want to save some fuel. Not that we're going to run out of fuel, but they want to have a light light load to race at the end. Obviously, they had turned it loose, and it was up to him to choose whether he wanted to go by. They're ecstatic. We're also now going to go down and get more of an update from Gary Gerald.
Well, we're checking on the problems from Mario Andretti. He's complained that the car is bottoming. They'll have to address that in the next pit stop. Not much they can do. They may change some tire pressures. Michael Andretti, meanwhile, reporting no problems whatsoever as he continues to chase Fittipaldi. We're expecting that second stop around lap 34.
We're at lap 30 right now, so 4 laps, 16 miles away, and these cars will be back into the pits once again. And Emerson Fittipaldi will have a battle with Michael Andretti in the pits. So once again, the fight will go to the teams. This is the one track where the teams can make such an incredible difference in the race itself, and it could mean that difference here again. It could mean a win for either Michael or for Emerson Fittipaldi. A magnificent circuit, Road America, and if you want some bratwurst, boy, this is the place to get it. A roasting ears of corn. Beautiful weather. This August date is perfect and a great day. And the fight on the race course, well, right now, Danny Sullivan has Stefan Johansson climbing all over the back of his car. Johansson's closed up on Danny Sullivan and is now beginning to challenge him for 8th place.
Closing up with every lap. Johansson did not have a good time during practice. Blew a clutch, lost a lot of track time. He was 6th fastest, however, in the morning warm-up. So Stefan Johansson doing another good job in this Amex car run by Tony Bettenhausen.
So we'll watch that fight for just a moment. It is, in fact, a fight for 8th place. The 16 car is Stefan Johansson, and Danny Sullivan is now closing down on Mario Andretti. So this will be a three-way battle just any second now. And you can see that Robbie Gordon is not that far ahead. Scott Goodyear, there's Robbie Gordon. Scott Goodyear has been able to pull out a bit from Gordon.
And there's about 3 or 4 different carrots dangling out in front of Stefan Johansson, because he can see that there are a lot of very valuable championship points and money just ahead of him if he can pick off each of those positions. But Johansson looks very, very good. This is one of Roger Penske's cars from last year. Does have a Chevrolet engine in it, but Johansson very new to racing in America, but learning very, very quickly.
And I understand that sponsor's totally on board for next year now. They're very happy with this effort. But are they happier with Johansson in the car or Tony Bettenhausen? Do they like Tony better as an owner?
Are you asking me a political question or what?
A small political inquiry is all it was.
Tony is one of the best guys you could possibly have running a racing team. Tony knows himself that he was not brought up on road racing circuits, so he brings in someone like Johansson. I think it was a very, very good decision, and I think the team has benefited tremendously from it, because Amex and this team is now a front runner on television and in a lot of these races.
I really put you on the spot there, knowing how close you guys are. So the fight continues with Emerson Fittipaldi still a full 2.5 seconds in front. And take a look at Al Unser Jr. This would seem to be a little early for a stop, Jan Beekes.
You're right, Paul, but they're not too concerned about it. They say there is no problem with the car. They don't expect any adjustments. They're just bringing it in to get a good fuel reading. They don't feel it's going to be a problem. They can go the distance. Looks pretty routine so far. Waiting for that last drop of fuel. He's underway.
Al Unser Jr. makes his stop on lap 33 while running in 4th place. That would mean 17 laps to the end of the race, and one would think he could do that easily.
Yes, I think so, but we saw a great view of Al Jr.'s eyes. He had eye contact with his crew chief, who was on top of the wall, and he didn't take his eye off him until he put his hand down and says, go. Al Jr. grabs a gear and accelerates away.
Al will do that, as all drivers will. Look up toward Owen Snyder, look to his team owner, and just a mere glimpse will communicate literally thousands of pieces of information. I'm okay, everything's fine, look out for this. It's amazing what that eye contact will do.
You can see on the top of his helmet a lot of oil drops. He followed Rahal for a long period. Maybe there's oil dripping out of the back of Rahal's car.
First, second, and third. Fittipaldi makes the turn in, followed by Michael, followed by Bobby Rahal. There they are, all running very close together. And what about those cars running at the front of the field? Gary Gerald, you have an update.
Paul, it's a tactical race, as you mentioned, but it's a psychological battle, because Rahal and Michael Andretti against each other on the racetrack, against each other, next door to each other here in the pits. Both are laid out, both are waiting. No secrets down here, and there's a psychological edge that these teams enjoy if they can be a little bit quicker than their opponent.
They both come off the 14th and final corner onto the pit road and begin to climb up for service. As Penske's team waits, so does the Newman Haas team, so does Rahal Hogan. And Emerson Fittipaldi comes to the pits first. Then Rahal has to chuck, and he gets caught up behind Michael Andretti. And the teams fall over both of these cars. What an advantage. Michael's going to go all the way around. He has to. He has no choice. Rahal's team goes to work on the car. Advantage Fittipaldi at the moment, though. Michael Andretti will take the lead of the race, but he's still got to come around and make the stop.
Michael totally missed his pit, and as soon as he realized that, he just stopped for a second or two, didn't realize that Rahal was right behind him, blocked Rahal, but that has given a tremendous advantage to Emerson Fittipaldi, who was in and out cleanly.
At this point in the season, the kind of errors that cost championships. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Emerson Fittipaldi came in. He saw the whole thing. He is pitted behind them. While they were changing the tires and filling it up with fuel, he saw everything that was happening there ahead of him. The crew was jumping up and down. They were so excited they could hardly change the wheels, Paul. They know they have a huge advantage after that miscue.
And Stefan Johansson came rolling up the pits very slowly. Looks like they stretched this car a little too far. This will be costly.
Maybe out of fuel. That's usually what happens when you slowly come into the pit lane at the end of a run like that. Terrible, terrible situation for Stefan, having had such a great run.
So as Johansson loses positions as his team pushes him up to the pits, here's the onboard camera view as they came up to the pits, Michael Andretti and Bobby Rahal.
Hear him, scare him time here. Rahal is trying to do it as absolutely fast as possible. That's Michael ahead of him. Now look, Michael missed his pit, and he stops in Rahal's, right in front of Rahal's pit. Then he realizes what he's done. Look, stops right here. There's Rahal's guys. Look at the frustration on their face. Look at this, look at this. Come on, Michael, get out of our road here.
Finally, Michael drops the clutch, gets out of the pits, and the guys jump back. Fairly dangerous because Rahal, you have to keep the revs up on those machines, and he could have lurched forward. So here comes Michael Andretti after that miscue, ready for his true stop, and Gary Gerald waits. Oh, and Scott Goodyear gets into the wall. Scott Goodyear catches the wall on the backside of the course. Looks like it's just beyond the kink. Michael Andretti, the stop is routine thus far, the one lap late. And the double yellow flags come out indicating a full course caution. Michael Andretti picks up an advantage because of this accident. Scott Goodyear is still in that car. We'll keep an eye on him. Michael Andretti rolls away. Mario Andretti picked up the lead of the race as Michael went in. Michael Andretti very frustrated with this situation. There's Scott Goodyear's badly damaged car, and he still sits there. The course marshal's getting there for the first time. I presume that Scott is okay. Now the course marshal there.
This is the very fast back section kink, and Scott Goodyear is still in that car. We don't see any motion. It's hard to speculate yet, but he hit very, very hard going backwards. You can see all the damage done to the back of that car.
And Scott Goodyear is all right. He's going to climb out of the car. I'm sure he's very frustrated by this position because he's having a great run going. A little bit of fire burning underneath by the left side of the engine, and that's probably just oil. It's not a threat to the driver or the car at this point.
And look at this. Scott Goodyear is shaken and shocked, and he probably sees stars at the moment because he's doing everything so slowly. But there's another good sign. Stefan Johansson did get running again. He's back out on the racetrack.
And a lot of debris across the course there. You saw Stefan weave to get out of the way. We're under the third full course yellow of the day. Dairy State. They also, by the way, the same ranch has Longhorn steers. We are under a full course yellow. And Bobby Rahal's beginning to line up now in fourth place behind Al Unser Jr. It should be some time, though, before they can get the track clear over on one of the fastest sections at the kink, where Scott Goodyear in heavy contact with the barrier, but you saw him climb out of the car. Appears to be all right. But when that car took the barrier, it sprayed parts and gravel and everything all over the track, and that'll take a little while to clean up.
And we're coming to the section now where Scott Goodyear went off. It's this very difficult fast kink. It's 165 miles an hour. He went through here, went off on the left-hand side onto the grass, and that was it, out of control. Hit the guardrail on the right, and look how far down the road he went before he finally stopped. You see the safety crews there on the left-hand side working with
this. This is the third full course yellow here at Road America today, which is a record. It's because of Scott Goodyear, and now Jan Beekes is with his owner, Derek Walker.
Well, Derek Walker has just received the news that his driver is okay, but I guess it was a huge crash, but you only have 192 car for this season.
Yeah, that makes a bit of a squeeze for Vancouver, but we'll have to wait and see when we get back. These guys can do a pretty good job with the car when they get their hands on it, so we'll see what we can do.
Had he called in earlier as though he was having any problem whatsoever, or, I mean, obviously you're running great at the time.
Yeah, no problems whatsoever. We really had a good handle on the mileage, and we were just pacing ourselves, and car was handling good, so just a surprise, really.
All right, well, we hope we get together for Vancouver.
Thank you.
Paul?
Well, of course, that Vancouver run is going to be very important because we're talking in McKenzie, a Canadian sponsor there.
Canadian sponsor. Everybody wants to go to Vancouver to see Paul Tracy and Scott Goodyear in particular. So a very difficult situation for Walker Motorsports. However, Derek Walker has handled difficult situations very well in the past.
Still under the full course yellow. What about that situation with the Ray Hall stop? Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Carl Hogan, of course, the co-owner with Bobby Rahal. You had an eyeball view of that near miss here with involving your driver and Michael Andretti. That was a scary moment.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I think that maybe Michael thought ours was his pit, and he just overshot his, and Bobby's ready to cut in, and I think just mere inches between them, so it was a close call for sure.
Well, amazing when you see the crew guys go over. They're in some jeopardy as they tried to get those cars untangled.
Yeah, the one thing is, though, we had already told Bobby that Michael was coming with him, so they were watching and we were watching. I think that's where the radio's really come in handy.
You end up losing, I believe, one spot as a result. You're now in the number 3 position.
Yeah, Al Jr. got in there in front of us. He's right in front of us, but I think we're okay, and I think everything's looking good. Our fuel's looking good, and we're ready to go.
Okay, thanks, Carl.
Right.
Paul?
So Carl Hogan, co-owner with Bobby Rahal. There's Scott Pruitt. They finally have that car working fine. They're back on the circuit and beginning to move that car up through the field now. Don't forget, that's a team that at the end of the year is no more. So there has been some indication that Scott Pruitt is looking for a new ride with perhaps the Budweiser organization and perhaps with Kenny Bernstein. Well, we'll just have to see what happens. Very special helmet here being worn by Scott Pruitt. They do a lot of technological work not only on the car but on the driver's situation in the cockpit. So let's get an update on this very special piece of equipment.
The driver has a wealth of information that's available to him on the digital readout dash down here in front of him. But on the racetrack, he's so busy, he frequently gets little more than just a glimpse of that information. To simplify the situation, driver Scott Pruitt has made a unique modification to his driver's helmet. Now, with the visor up, if you look closely down here, you'll see that there are 3 small lights positioned right here. This first lamp right here is a warning light. It's tied to the data acquisition system on board the race car. When it senses a problem, this light will flash on. That tells Scott that there's a problem. Perhaps he's losing oil pressure. Perhaps something's overheating. It directs his attention back down to the dash, and it tells him specifically what the problem is. The second light over here is a fuel warning light. When he's down to his last couple gallons of fuel, this flashes on automatically, tells him he must get to the pit to be refueled. And the third light over here is tied in to the engine management control system. When he's on a road course, this automatically flashes on and tells him every time he needs to shift the car. So rather than have to direct his attention down here to the dash and read the revs, the light tells him when to shift. 3 interesting little devices here that keep his concentration not down here on the dash, but out in front of him on the racetrack.
Still under a full course yellow before a gigantic crowd here at Road America, the biggest ever. Boy, they are really impressed with the draw the Indy cars have had this weekend. Still under that full course yellow because of Scott Goodyear's accident as they clean up debris on the backside. Let's take the opportunity to check in with the pits again and Jan Beekes.
Thank you, Paul. This is a unique circuit because you have such high-speed turns and such low-speed turns. So the teams are always searching for something so they can affect the handling in the high-speed turns, but not affect it in the slow speed. We take a look at a shock absorber here. This is a bump rubber. This is what's called a packer, and this is a very slim little plastic one they can slide in. Now, the faster the car goes, the more that the aerodynamics push it down. Obviously, then if you slide this in, you can make it stiffer, but only in fast turns. This little thing right here, each one of the crew chiefs, they keep them in their pocket. They're very, very important. Now, with another update, let's go down to Gary Gerald, who's looking into Bobby Rahal's eyewear.
Vision, of course, critical for any race driver, and most race drivers are blessed with great vision. Not so Bobby Rahal. Normal vision, of course, is 20/20. Take a look at this eye chart here. At 20 feet distance, normal vision, you can cleanly discern this line. Here's what Bobby Rahal sees at 20 feet, and this is blurred to him, this large E. Rahal, of course, is one of the few drivers who wears glasses. They start with these lenses here that are super lightweight. They call them featherweights. They grind them down. They make a very lightweight pair of glasses that he wears underneath his racing helmet. He's tried contacts, but they don't fit his eyes properly. And because of the research of engineers like Mike Held and others, Rahal is totally comfortable with the glasses under the helmet. It's one of those unusual quirks of racing that a man with 20/200 vision can be out here contending for a racing championship. Paul?
There's Paul Tracy, another one that wears glasses while he drives. You can see they are still trying to get all the emergency equipment back into position after clearing the accident for Paul Tracy, and also trying to get that part of the racetrack cleared up.
And Scott Brayton inside with him. He's calmed down now under a full course yellow, running in 11th place. Another driver here who had trouble this weekend, had a major engine blow up on Friday.
Here's the Valvoline race summary after 37 laps. Those cars out of the race, some of them, of course, not starting. 3 caution periods thus far, but the good news is 6 lead changes here today. That's the most since back in 1982 and 83. We expect them to go back to full-speed racing very shortly here as we take a look at the points. If this race would end at this moment, Bobby Rahal would end with the championship. But you see, the points are beginning to close. We still have a race at Vancouver, Mid-Ohio, Nazareth, and Laguna Seca lying ahead. Bobby Rahal doesn't have that championship clinched by a long shot, and there's still plenty of opportunities to move in. Michael Andretti in a great position right now to try and move forward, but he sits behind Bobby Rahal in the order here today, so he needs to light it up, get some points. This is what I like about a natural terrain road course. You can get up on the hills, look down on different sections of the track. You get a little tired of one view, you move further down to another section. In fact, I spent a lot of time on Friday just moving from point to point, refamiliarizing myself with the corners. It's great on a natural terrain circuit. They had 5,000 people here on Friday. That's a record. 20,000 yesterday and 50,000 today. A giant record for Road America. Success of the Indy cars. Fittipaldi is our leader. 39 laps are complete. Then Al Unser Jr., then Rahal. Mario Andretti with a nice run in 4th place. And John Andretti waited 1 lap when that yellow came out and really jumped up into the front of the field, got into 5th place. Now, let's talk about John Andretti a little more, Gary Gerald.
Well, indeed. Let's talk with Jim Hall, because John Andretti has made the big gain. And, Jim, you gained, I think, 6 or 7 positions here into the top 5. And I guess we're wondering, was that by design, or does it turn out to be one of those things that just happens almost by accident?
Well, it was good fortune on our part. John had some bad fortune. He spun early and had to come in, so we were a little out of sequence on the pit stops. And we had already called the pit stop when the yellow came out. He could only make that 1 lap, so we didn't have any choice. We brought him in on that lap anyway, but as it turned out, we got to make our stop with a clear pit lane, and with the other cars slowed down, so we gained those positions due to the yellow.
Give us a quick assessment on this season, because I know you hope to be competitive and you want to win every time out. There's been consistency, but being there to challenge for the win has been a frustration for this team.
Yeah, it has. We haven't done what we expected this year. It's been hard on all of us, I think, because our expectations are higher than this. We're off somewhere just a little bit, and we're trying to put it together. We're just not quite there, but we're going to get it. I'm confident we will.
All right, they're in the top 5 right now. Let's check in again with Jan Beekes.
Well, Gary, what we have here is a demonstration of that telemetry system that we talked about earlier in the show. That's why the teams can keep up so well on what's going on in the racetrack. This control box right here, that's where all the brains for this is. Look how small that is. This is the actual dash that you would see. This whole big unit, that's the test unit. We can actually test the tack. Watch the tack go up. We'll go all the way up to 12. Oh, hit the rev limiter, it starts to flash. You can do all kinds of neat things with these dashes. The interesting thing is the basic unit, just this box, and this is about $27,000. For another $5,000, you can get what's called burst telemetry, and that burst telemetry means you get the information every lap. For another $5,000 or $7,000 or even $10,000 more, you can get what Rahal Hogan has, what Penske has, and what the Andrettis have, which is real-time telemetry, which means they can get all these readings every single foot around the racetrack, they can watch it. Paul?
So now we need to hire an electronics warfare officer to steal everybody else's telemetry, or maybe even jam it. Oh, this could get complicated, Derek. Emerson Fittipaldi is still the leader. 40 laps complete. Not far away, off from the east side of this track, is Lake Michigan. Boy, out there, have a good time in the morning, get a little rod out, little lure into the water, do some swimming. About 30 miles away from Road America. This is a beautiful part of Wisconsin. We are still under the full course yellow. Don't forget, coming up Saturday on ESPN, Speed Week, live from Bristol International, and then the Bud 500. More great racing coverage here on ESPN. Still under that full course yellow. The Grand Prix of Belgium next Sunday, and then we'll have coverage of the Indy cars at Vancouver. So plenty of racing action coming up next weekend. The view there of Ted Prappis, who has broken into the top 10. He runs in 10th place now in that number 31 car from the Personal Investment Group. People are always saying, geez, what's PIG stand for?
Personal Investment Group, one of the most colorful cars on the IndyCar circuit here, have not been able to do every single race. Ted Prappis runs on a limited budget. Was a graduate of the Indy Light Series. In fact, won races regularly in that. But Ted Prappis is doing a good job this afternoon. It is so difficult for some of these smaller teams to compete on a financial level with the front runner. So anytime you can get into the top 10, you know that everybody on this team has done a very good job. You can see there, started 16th, which really was a good qualifying position for Ted Prappis, and is now running in a good 10th, right behind Raul Boesel.
Yeah, you see them coming over the hill. There's Prappis. Just in front of him is Raul Boesel, who has also had a very good year. There comes Raul down. He is driving, of course, one of the Dick Simon cars. Got a great chance at Indianapolis when Hiro Matsushita broke his femur. Hiro, of course, is back racing as well, but they have kept Raul in the car, and it's paid off.
It has paid off. One of the good additions to Dick Simon Racing. Raul Boesel worked very hard in Brazil to get the type of financial backing to get him back in a car. And Dick Simon has done a very good job with the people and machinery he has put around him. And of course, Detroit, when he ran so well, was the highlight of Boesel's season so far. But Boesel, again in the top 10, now running a good 9th place.
Here's an update report from Dr. Terry Trammell, the IndyCar Director of Medical Services, on Scott Goodyear, who they did take to the medical center here. They say he has a bruised left knee and a sore upper back, but otherwise he is all right. This is the yellow for Scott Goodyear, so that shows you not only how fast they can clean a circuit, but how much care they can take of the driver. Sandy Andretti, her husband, runs in 7th place. Teresa Fittipaldi, her husband, leads this race. That's a good position for both, especially for Fittipaldi, who needs points. As the green flag comes out, they go single file under the starter stand, and the race is rejoined again with just 8 laps of action to go.
And the one we'll watch is Michael Andretti, because he's further back because of that botched pit stop. He's currently 7th, but he will be on the charge.
And keep an eye on Al Unser Jr. as well, running in 2nd place with Rahal. Up to challenge him. Now you're on board with Bobby Rahal. A fast section of the course, down through the woods, under the overpass to the backside. As Bobby Rahal tries to catch Al Unser Jr. And little Al is beginning to worry Emerson Fittipaldi.
Oh, look at under braking. Look at little Al. Tries to go down the inside, but look at Michael. Or is that Mario?
Not just little Al, but Mario Andretti challenges on Bobby Rahal. So 2 challenges in that one corner. Of course, that's a critical corner. That's one of the key passing areas.
There's no holds barred now. It's a sprint to the finish. Whatever you have, you got to just make do. There's no more pit stops. Forget radio communications. You're on your own, boys. This is a straight fight. Look at Al Jr. goes down the outside.
Al Jr. is going to try him again on the turn into the carousel. Positions the car to the outside. But does this put him in a good position for the carousel? Fittipaldi says, no, I'm going to stay in the lead here. They'll come off the carousel again to a very fast section of the course.
Oh, this is good, but it's impossible to go around the outside of the carousel. Fittipaldi stretches that out about 3 car lengths. But Al Jr. going to make Emerson work very hard for this.
Another critical passing area coming just ahead as they kick up some dust from the area where Scott Goodyear had his accident. Now back into Canada corner. They both come down through the gears. Mario Andretti was closing up very close on Bobby Rahal there for a moment. They come off the corner in the same order, but the battle continues.
Oh, this is a battle. Al Jr. is very, very good in this situation when it really becomes a dogfight, but Emerson Fittipaldi has won more races now in IndyCar than he did in the great heady days of Formula One, so there is more experience in that car than anybody else.
Let's listen now. Bobby Rahal runs in third place. Listen to his gear changes as he heads down into the first corner.
You can hear the car bottoming. See that right there? Scrapes along the ground. That's how low they run the ride heights. But this is a battle. That's the first two right ahead of him, Emerson and Al Jr.
Let's continue to ride and listen with Bobby Rahal. This is Hurry Downs, a left-hander ahead.
Watch Rahal has that neck strap on. Watch him pull against the neck strap on the long right-handed carousel here. No, he doesn't. He leans his head in. Neck muscles mustn't be too tired yet. Oh, yeah, you see as he comes out of it, the head just stretches away.
Now through the gravel pit, heading for the kink. Through there, on the back stretch now, Thunder Valley. I love the names of the corners and the areas of this track here. So as we watch Bobby Rahal, Jan Vikas, you have an update.
Yes, I do. The update is that Al Unser Jr. has radioed in saying that he is losing a little bit of speed down the straightaway. Keep in mind that the front car, Emerson Fittipaldi, has that new plenum. Remember we talked about in that track fact that plenum has that new C plenum on the B engine. Bobby Rahal, you'll see a little bit of a bubble on the back of the car. He has a new development piece also. Al Unser Jr. has radioed in, says that's where I'm losing the speed is on the straightaway, but I have a great car in the corners. Paul?
So that new plenum working for Bobby Rahal. It is supposed to be a similar plenum to the one that has been on the Penske B engines, the Chevy B engines that are on the Penske cars.
Okay, here's a good situation here. Michael is coming up on his dad, Mario. Now, we've never seen Mario give anybody an inch of room when he needs it, so it'll be interesting to see how difficult he'll make it for Michael to try and get by before Michael continues his attack on Rahal.
Stefan Johansson off course. He pulled off, drove the car off himself, apparently a broken gearbox. We continue to watch Michael Andretti now work on his father. His father should sense Michael's presence here and maybe, in fact, even give way to him. But then again, maybe not.
I'm not sure he gives way to anybody, even if it is his son. I've seen him pull the front wings off Michael's car before when he tried to pass him. But this is great stuff here. Oh, under braking, he gets him.
And Michael Andretti darts inside of Mario Andretti, picks up the position, moves into fourth place.
Absolutely Mario's least favorite corner on the whole racetrack, because if ever he lost position, it always happened there on the downhill run to turn 8.
Stage being set now for the finish of this run. Fuel is not a factor. The only factor is the driver in the cockpit. Emerson Fittipaldi is at the front of the order. The average speed of the race only down at 108 miles an hour, owing to the 3 full course caution periods, and one of them, the last one, very lengthy. So at the top of the order, it's Fittipaldi, followed by Al Unser Jr., Bobby Rahal, Mario Andretti, and Michael Andretti. John Andretti continues to battle with Danny Sullivan for position. So in the closing laps, fights all over this track, and we'll be back to watch them. Back at Road America, Elkhart, Lake Wisconsin, in the closing laps now, just 5 to go. And the Texaco Haviland 200. It's been a great run thus far. The lead has gone back and forth 6 different times. And Robbie Gordon off the edge of the course just now waiting for a little tow. And there is Scott Brayton with something terribly wrong at the right rear. Looks like a tire's let go.
Tire's let go, and he's got to drive back very slowly, because when you're driving a flat tire, very often it can destroy the tire and in turn destroy the bodywork. But you can see chunks of rubber coming off the tire. You can just about see it on the left side, but see the way the rear wishbone.
Well, in this picture, normally you'd see half of the screen would be tire. Look at the chunks go flipping away. as he just wants to get it back to the pits now, get a new one on there, and hopefully hasn't damaged the car trying to bring it in.
And couldn't even make it through the chicane in the pit lane there because he didn't have enough steering. Look at that left front wheel. Look at it, he's off the ground. That's why he couldn't turn the car right, left through the chicane.
Good job of getting the car back for Scott Brayton. Nice safe stop in his pit, so now they can go to work on it. Back on board with third place, Bobby Rahal. Al Unser Jr. just ahead, but more importantly, Michael Andretti is just behind. And of course, he got to this position on that good pass with his father. Really a nice little maneuver as they made the turn down toward the carousel.
And this was the key. Right here, Michael gets on the power. Now he's already made his mind up. I'm going to hurry down the inside of the hurry downs. Boom! Slices down the inside. Mario had no option but just let him through.
Another look at the same situation. Michael Andretti moving on his father, moves to the inside, comes past, handles very well through here, but that's also a pass that requires a great deal of confidence in the other guy.
Exactly, and Mario has been passed so many times down there, he left the door wide open, so I don't think he was really going to have or give Michael much of a fight. But now look at Michael, look at Rahal. Remember, here's a championship battle here also.
Battle for third place, battle for championship points that are so critical. Michael Andretti would like any position ahead of Rahal. He'd love first place and make it 3 in a row here at Elkhart and 5 in a row in the state of Wisconsin. Can he do it today? Emerson Fittipaldi looks like he's going to have something to say about that, but Fittipaldi is only 1.2 seconds ahead of the second place Al Unser Jr. So the battle right now that we're watching so closely, the only one at the front of the order is Bobby Rahal and Michael Andretti. What about Emerson Fittipaldi, the leader of the race, though, Gary Gerald?
Typically, Emerson doesn't talk to the crew unless there's really a problem during racing action. He was happy under the yellow. The crew's concerned, well, they rattled them off. Unser, Rahal, Andretti, and Andretti. Everything looking good for Emo and the Penske team at the moment on the final laps, Paul.
Chuck Sprague, the manager, is with Penske Racing. As he keeps listening in, Shelley Unser keeps track of her husband, running in second place. That's Rick Gallus's wife alongside. And Michael Andretti continues to work the back of Rahal, but lost an opportunity there. And they're running out of passes through turning points, passes through passing zones with just 3 laps to go.
And there's the first 5, still all in a line with only 3 laps to go. Teresa Fittipaldi clasps her hands, hangs on. She knows how difficult it's been to win races, and now the Penske team really are coming on very strong at the end of this season.
Emerson Fittipaldi runs the lead of the race, 1.4 seconds ahead of second place Al Unser Jr. Rahal is third, but Michael Andretti is challenging at the back of Rahal. Fittipaldi is not unchallenged by Al Unser Jr. You just got a glimpse of the first 4. They're running all together on this race course in the closing laps.
Here's everybody with the heavy braking down to Canada Corner, just like Long Beach. Everybody in a train. Remember what happened at Long Beach on the last lap. Big crash between the 2 Galmer cars, but it's such a frustrating situation for a driver like Al Unser Jr. here when he's probably putting perfect laps together, the best he's done all day, makes no mistakes, and he still can't catch Emerson.
Don't forget, right after this race concludes, more racing action. Mickey Thompson's Off-Road Grand Prix. Plenty of action there. In fact, a lot of ups and downs, just like we have at Elkhart Lake, with perhaps the most different terrain changes. Well, it may be the most in terms of distance top to bottom at Laguna Seca. You're going up and down here the different hills rather constantly. Well, Robbie Gordon, you saw him out of the race. Now let's check with Gary Gerald.
Indeed, it was a motor that puts him out, and Robbie is one of the youngsters trying to make a mark. Evaluate your performance. I know you're learning a lot. Are you getting the progress that you'd hope to at this point of your rookie season?
Well, definitely. The car was running really good, and unfortunately, Scott had that crash on the back straightaway, which created a long yellow, and the car overheated, and it never got cooled back off, and we were running, and finally the motor blew up with about 7 laps to go.
Any plans for 1993 yet in your book?
Not quite yet, but we're going to run some more races this year with the Ganassi Racing Team.
Okay, we wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul?
Christian Danner just off the edge of the course. Now, considering this position in the race with really just 2 laps to go, they will no doubt leave that car there. But what that will do, Derek, is put yellow flags flying in the 1 zone that they have a really good chance to pass at 5.
That's right, local yellow situation, but that car is actually in a very dangerous position, so that could be trouble. But Michael Andretti now, look at this, dropping back from his charge against Bobby Rahal. So Michael having some problems.
Problems, or has he decided that he can't really challenge Rahal, and therefore it's brighter to keep the car safe?
Michael never decides he can't challenge anybody. It is absolutely flat out all the time. If he's losing time, it's because the car is not allowing him to make that big attack, because he loves to attack from front or back.
This is what happened to Christian Danner just about a lap ago. Just flat lost it coming off the corner.
Yeah, it looks to me as if the engine blew.
Yeah,
yes, I think, yeah, there's all the fluid. Engine blew, got on the rear tires, did a great job of saving it, but didn't actually manage to get it quite off the line. But there's a lot of fluid on that acceleration line out of that turn 5.
And a lot of fluid lying just ahead for these drivers. The white flag has just come out. Emerson Fittipaldi is heading down towards station 5 now. There he is, the leader of the race. Remember, there is some oil on the track lying just ahead, so this could be a very precarious corner for all of them. The corner workers waving them over off the line. Fittipaldi acknowledges it. Christian Danner's car right on the edge of the track. I wouldn't want to be sitting in that race car at this moment. I'd like to be here. Emerson Fittipaldi leading this race on the final lap. Just over 3 miles to go.
Dangerous, difficult situation at station 5, but you can't do anything about it because this is absolutely a shootout. These 3 drivers still have a chance. Remember, a mistake can so easily happen, even on the last lap.
Allenser Jr. and Bobby Rahal both very definitely seen an opportunity as they tried to close up during Hurry Downs. Now they're off of Hurry Downs through the carousel, heading for the kink. First, second, and third all running right together here at Road America in what has been a terrific race thus far, and looks like it's going to be a whale of a finish. Now they have an opportunity to pass once again if they can only close in.
And look at Rahal, has a little look down the inside, but he's too far behind Al Jr. But look, he made him at least 2 or 3 car lengths under braking. He only has one more opportunity, but Fittipaldi looks safe.
The opportunity for Rahal will be corner 14, the last corner on the circuit. Already Fittipaldi makes that turn in and out. Rahal comes in behind Allenser Jr. They will drag up the hill right behind the leader of the race, Emerson Fittipaldi. And he's done it. Emerson Fittipaldi takes the checkered flag. Allenser Jr. second. Bobby Rahal third. 2 in a row for Fittipaldi. 2 in a row for Penske Racing. A very difficult day as Emerson Fittipaldi takes his 16th career victory, and 5 have come on natural terrain road courses, as befits a former world driving champion. Second place for this team, the winners in Indy. Second here, Allenser Jr. and the Gallus-Craco organization. We'll be back right after this. Allenser Jr. finishing in second place, still waving to the course marshals here. All volunteers who take time off from work and do a marvelous job to help make races like this possible. And Emerson Fittipaldi enjoying the full 4-mile drive around this course, finishing as the winner, his 2nd win in a row in the IndyCars. And that'll keep him just on the edge of life in the PPG points fight for perhaps for Emo a 2nd championship. And Rahal and Michael Andretti finishing 3rd and 4th. Rahal 3rd, Michael 4th. It keeps them very close in the fights as well. So the battle continues on. Here is the top 10 in the order, unofficial as of this moment, but there should be no reason to protest or contest this finish of the race. And Emerson Fittipaldi, of course, is the winner of the race. John Andretti, that pit stop maneuver, a great maneuver for him, puts him up in 6th place. Sullivan, Bussell, Scott Pruitt keeping the car going, looking good, and Ted Prappis. And now they head into the winner's circle. A favorite place of all racing drivers. Emerson Fittipaldi is there. The crowd gathers around the car. They begin to unstrap the new champion here in the Texaco Haviland 200. Here are the way the points are right now. Bobby Rahal still with a very solid lock, but Allenser Jr. and Michael Andretti nibbling away, still with plenty of racing yet to go in the IndyCar season.